Welcome to the Leadership Spark Podcast, where we equip you to be the great leader your people deserve. This is Corey, and today we're going to continue talking about how there are some important things in leadership that are more important than other things, and for you to be able to have a perspective on what those are so that you can drive the behavior that you want to drive. And so yesterday we talked about how clarity beats motivation. Yes, your team needs to be motivated, but clarity beats motivation. Today we're going to talk about alignment beats agreement. Your team needs to agree, but what they need more than agreement is alignment. Nodding heads doesn't ultimately get you the outcome that you want. And nodding heads doesn't mean that your team is committed. If people agree, it doesn't mean they are committed. You want people to be aligned. And so what does this mean? Why does this resonate? Because we can make a mistake as a leader to interpret silence for buy-in. We communicate something, people don't respond, or people nod their head, and we assume that they are bought in and aligned with what we're doing. Or we can mistake agreement for ownership. Someone may agree, but they don't really own it. And they're not going to take it away and go and own it and help you drive it across the finish line or drive it forward, whatever that may be. Or we can mistake compliance for commitment. People are compliant, but they're not really committed together to what you are trying to lead them towards as a team. And so real alignment requires shared understanding and shared accountability, that people are sharing the understanding of directionally where we're going and the accountability to be able to get there. And ultimately, that is what we want to drive towards as a leader. And that's why alignment beats agreement every time. And you want your team to be aligned. And so here's some things to think about. When people agree and they don't align, usually what they're telling you is that maybe they fear conflict, or maybe they don't feel safe to be able to challenge the status quo or challenge you as a leader. Or maybe there are power dynamics in play that they're trying to navigate through and they don't quite know where they stand and what will happen if they communicate. Or maybe they desire to appear competent and they don't want to ask the question because it may reflect negatively on them. But that is something that you can address as a leader by driving alignment and taking the steps necessary to drive alignment. And so just remember that alignment beats agreement every time. And when you get a bunch of nodding heads in your meeting and they're telling you that they agree, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are aligned and that they are committed. And so how do you know if you're aligned? Let me share with you some signals of real alignment. Real alignment signal is that people can explain the decision in their own words. And so if someone outside of the meeting or outside of the room says, explain to me what decision was made, they can explain in their own words why a decision was made, what it means, and what the next steps are. Another one would be trade-offs are explicitly named. They can tell you what the trade-offs are and they're explicitly named, or they can tell you the next steps with clarity without having a follow-up meeting, and they can move things forward. And so if you start to see some of those activities, it tells you that your team is probably aligned. And so remember that as a leader, alignment beats agreement. And you want to build an environment that drives alignment. And when you're aligned and you agree, but when you're aligned, you can move things forward at a faster pace, remove obstacles in the way, and get people committed to a common goal that allows you to build an extraordinary team and win as a leader.